So, what are the details surrounding the grand jury decision not to charge the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death? Why exactly did they make that decision? Are we ever going to get to see that grand jury transcript? And what is justice in this situation? Welcome to Thursday's Child. I'm your host, Keisha Toni, your former teacher turned constitutional lawyer, here to bring you your weekly lesson on the law. So let's get started. Now, first, I just want to say the reporting on this case has been terrible. There's been inaccurate facts and misinformation about the law all over the place, even from some of the biggest names in news. So watch what you read and make sure you read multiple sources before you jump to conclusions on a story. So first, I'm just going to present to you the findings of the grand jury as delivered by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. So Cameron says that the officers did both knock and announce before they charged into Breonna Taylor's home. One of the officers was first inside, and he says that he was fired upon by Kenneth Walker. The other two officers entered. One of those officers was Officer Hankison, the only officer charged in the shooting. 6 bullets struck Breonna, one being fatal, striking her pulmonary artery. No bullets from Hankison's weapon shot Breonna. The FBI ultimately concluded that was one of the other officers who shot her. Now, Cameron said that Hankison fired 10 shots, some from outside a sliding glass door and through a bedroom window. The grand jury determined that the other 2 officers were justified in their use of force. But for a full report on the facts of this case, please watch my video, Breonna Taylor, Part 1. So now let's talk about the law. So pay close attention because there's a lot here, but I'm going to break it down for you. So there's 6 possible homicide charges in Kentucky, and the grand jury agreed that the other 2 officers, Mattingly and Cosgrove, were justified, meaning the state is barred from pursuing any homicide charges against them. But why is that? Well, the Kentucky Penal Code offers 2 options. One is that the use of force is justified in the execution of a public duty if the officer believes that that conduct is required or authorized by law, or required or authorized by law in order to assist another public officer. Now, this is notwithstanding that officer exceeded his legal authority, but a warrant is legal authority. Next is your typical self-defense. The use of physical force by a defendant upon another person is justified if the defendant believes that such force is necessary to protect himself or someone else against the use or imminent use of force. Also, a person does not have the duty to retreat before he uses imminent force in Kentucky. That is the stand your ground law. So that is why there are no criminal charges against those 2 officers. So now let's talk about Officer Hankison, the only officer who was indicted by the grand jury in the death of Breonna Taylor. So he was indicted on a charge called wanton endangerment. And according to the Kentucky statute, someone is guilty of wanton endangerment in the 1st degree when they manifest extreme indifference to human life, and they wantonly engage in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. It is a Class D felony, punishable with fines of up to $10,000 and up to 5 years in prison for each count. So since Hankison was charged with 3 counts, he could get up to 15 years in prison. So why did Hankison not get charged with putting Breonna in danger? Well, the Washington Post posits that if ballistics had conclusively shown that one of the bullets from Hankison's gun killed Taylor, he could be charged with reckless homicide. But according to Cameron, the bullets that struck Taylor cannot be matched to his gun. But I think it's much more than that. So Hankison fired shots from outside the sliding glass door and through a bedroom window, and likely outside of what the grand jury determined to be the justifiable zone of deadly force. So what I think might have happened is that Hankison fired in such a way where he was unlikely to hit Breonna or Kenneth Walker, but he was likely to hit someone in a nearby apartment. Now, this might not be the reason, but it's possible. Finally, can we find out what went on during the grand jury proceedings? Well, written records are required, but they are typically kept secret, except that any person indicted by the grand jury can get the transcript. So that means Hankison. So it's possible the transcript will be made public if his case goes to trial. Now, I doubt this case will go to trial. I expect a plea deal, but it might go to trial. So I'll keep you updated. So let's end with the family's lawsuit. So Breonna's family sued the city of Louisville in April. A few weeks ago, the city of Louisville paid $12 million to settle the wrongful death suit and agreed to make changes in the police department. Now, hear me when I say this, but there is no way that the Taylor family would have succeeded in that lawsuit. And the reason is a steel thick wall called qualified immunity. I won't explain it again here, but watch my episode called Breonna Taylor Part 2 to know all about that. But the point I want to make to you is that the city is acknowledging that what happened to Breonna should not have happened. One of the city's attorneys said, well, the bottom line for me was this: when you know what the right thing to do is, you do it. It's important to see that Breonna's death is due to many different errors made by many members of the government in this case. The politicians that approved no-knock warrants and didn't abolish their use when many other police departments already have, the judge that signed the warrant, the chief of police, etc. So the truth is, I'm not sure if it would be justice to only hold accountable the officers that enforced the warrant when many people are to blame for the defects in this process. But just because the outcome is legal, it doesn't mean it feels right either. But don't let it discourage you from staying informed and staying involved. That's all for this episode of Thursday's Child. Thanks for watching. See you next time.